Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hi, I'm Dave Hamilton, and I'm here with my business partner, Michelle Pearson.
Hey,
Hi, Michelle. How are you now?
I'm good.
Good. You're almost done, aren't you?
A grand finale.
Grand
I'm
finale.
excited.
Yeah, we're coming in for the final segment of the entire C.L.A.S. symposium, the Cyber, Land, Air, Sea, and Space Symposium. This is the Defense Innovation Summit portion of it. And we're going to have a very interesting discussion and a celebration with James F. Hondo Geurts, Secretary of the Navy, in a moment. But first, I want to bring on our really good and great friend, Lieutenant General Harry Radagi, U.S. Air Force retired, who has been a staunch supporter of the America's Future series almost from its inception. So, Harry, how are you, sir?
Doing well, sir. Thank you very much. And Michelle, always great seeing you too.
It's great seeing you too, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, I can't tell our audience with how much affection and respect we have for Harry Radagi. Harry started with us many, many years ago. He helped us bring Governor Ridge, Secretary Ridge, to an event that we had. He's helped promote the program. He's been on our board of advisors and helped chair our board of advisors for many years. Been involved in most of our events. And I thought I might start a little bit by giving just a little bit of a high level background on Harry. This award that we give is given in his name. It's the Harry D Raduege Award. It's given for extraordinary contributions to technological innovation and national security. And that's because of Harry and his background. A lot of people may not know that Harry helped stand up, led the cybersecurity program for the Air Force and contributed mightily to technological innovation there. After retiring, and there's a lot of joint military experience in space and others, so he's got a very broad background there, all of it at very high level technological aspects of our military. But he left there and helped head cyber up for Deloitte. And then he has been with the Cohen Group as a senior advisor for a number of years, advising some of the country's top leaders, corporate and government ones. And he also now recently, a few months ago, joined and became the head of the National Cybersecurity Center. He's their CEO, president. And it is our honor, Harry, to have you here with us today. Love for you to share a few remarks first, and then we're going to bring on Sean Bond of Elbit, one of our sponsors, and he's going to help introduce Secretary Gertz. But if you would, a few remarks, sir.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, David, to you and the America's Future series. I am definitely so humbled and honored to have my name associated with America's Future series and with this wonderful award for distinguished contributions to technological innovation and national security. And David, you know, as I have been listening to all six of the presentations that you have supported here and sponsored during the month of April, and as I've thought about the technological innovation, I really had to reflect back on my career, and I'd like to just share a few personal observations on how I think technology innovation has evolved in our national security. You know, in my earlier days in my government career, I really saw the prime players being government and only the big industry people. We were subjected to buying equipment and technologies with military specifications, mil specs, military standards, mil standards. And I believe, looking back now, that we had security over classification. And what that really led to was limited access, extreme acquisition time frames, budget overviews, and product delivery delays. But then I noticed there was a shift, and government and industry in my career started to branch out, and we actually embraced in the federal government a growth in what we referred to at that time as public-private partnerships. And through my personal experience of the Y2K, the year 2000 event, when we all were wondering whether or not everything electronic was going to shut down, or if we could have had some sort of misunderstanding or misinterpretation or something with other nations that would have led to some sort of a conflict that none of us would have liked. But you know, the Y2K experience through public-private partnerships really shone a bright light as we started to host town hall meetings across the United States to educate the public, answer questions, and everybody was involved in that. And I might also add that during Y2K, we had a lot of international involvement, including strong ties with the Russian government and their industry. The other area of public-private partnership that comes to mind was the experience on 9/11 in 2001, where we had to put the Pentagon back together, and we also had to establish connectivity with New York City. And at some point then, the importance of STEM education became really universally recognized by so many others. And I think that was really accelerated by space activity and now what we're referring to as cyberspace. And now there's much more data collection that really shows that the US has fallen behind other nations in our STEM education. But additionally for me, and beginning in the early 2000s, I really sensed the need and pushed for more open discussion with entrepreneurs and investors. And I can briefly describe this movement as being better connecting people who wear suits and ties to work with those who don't. As I saw it across the United States, it really was, to me, sort of East meets West. As I was on the East Coast and started traveling to the West Coast, where they don't necessarily wear ties every day to work. Thank you very much there, David. You're looking dapper today. But we're doing so much more today with standing think tanks and development houses that involve government, industry, and academia. And that has been witnessed with these magnificent events that the America's Future series has been putting on and sponsoring. And so this overall evolution that I've seen just during my career and that I just described, I think is contributing today to better, faster, and well-financed technology innovation. And all of that is so important for our national security. And that just leads me to emphasize what I call the America's Future series difference. And that's where you have brought together and continue to do so government, industry, education, and investors. Over my career, I have had various combinations of that, but you add the investors in there, which is such an important piece, and it fits into what I have seen during my career as an evolution. So for national security and focusing on technology innovation, I think America's Future series has identified and is addressing those 5 operational domains that you've now called out as C.L.A.S.S, CLASS. And that's cyberspace, that's land, air, sea, and space. And of course, those are the 5 operational domains that we now work in. So the focus now is on encouraging open, honest, and trusted discussion among various sectors who, as you say, David, present diverse points of view that are so important for all of us in moving forward. So I want to congratulate America's Future series, Murray Media, for all that you are doing in promoting this innovation and technology insert into our national security and concerns for the future. Thank you very much for this time, and thank you so much for the honor of having my name on this designated recognition for support to our nation's security. Thank you.
Sir, it is our honor, and I want everyone to know that you are the living embodiment of what we stand for. Your career has been an example of exactly what we're trying to do with this program. You have been a technological leader in your own right, but throughout your career, you connected everyone, and you worked in joint domains. You connected people within the military, within the DoD. You worked with investors, you worked with academia, you worked with the private sector. So you are the living embodiment of the America's Future Series. And this award, it's our honor to have your name associated with it. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, David.
Okay, Godspeed, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I want you to know we love Lieutenant General Harry Radage. We want to bring on Elbit's, one of Elbit's leaders, Sean Bond. He's going to help us introduce Tamarian Bates, who is a good and great friend of Secretary Geurts. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Sean before he comes on, just so you guys have an understanding of his background. Sean joined Elbit Systems of America in 2020 and is responsible for studying the strategic and operational direction of the company's Airborne Solutions business unit. He is the Senior Vice President of Airborne Solutions. With more than 25 years in the aerospace and defense industry, Mr. Bond brings a range of diverse executive and technical experiences to Elbit America, including various avionics solutions and numerous aerospace, electronic, and control systems. Mr. Bond earned his bachelor's of science degree in aerospace engineering from the University of Maryland. He also holds certificates from the Aerospace Engineering Program at the U.S. Naval Academy and Institute for Management Development in Lausanne, Switzerland, among others. Sean and Elbit are really sort of the perfect folks to tee this up. Your technological experience, your innovation, your company's leadership in that arena make you really the perfect person to tee this up, sir. Welcome and thank you for your support.
Well, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. So I'm Sean Bond of Elbit America, and I am honored to introduce the participants of today's fireside chat. Our moderator for the session is Tamarian Bates, and Tamarian served in the U.S. Army predominantly in special operations for 25 years. He's a former plank holder director of SoftWorks, and now is a national innovation leader and is on a mission to synergize innovation for the entirety of the government through his newly formed organization, GovWorks. Our special guest today is the Honorable James Hondo Gertz. I'm going to go back in time, but then forward in time a little bit in this introduction. So earlier this year, Hondo Gertz was designated as performing the duties of the Undersecretary of the Navy. So in addition to serving as the Deputy and Principal Assistant SecNav, he serves as a Chief Operating Officer and Chief Management Officer for the Department of the Navy. Additionally, he oversees intelligence activities, intelligence-related activities, special access programs, critical infrastructure, and sensitive activities within the department. He's got a lot going on. Before that, he was Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Research, Development, and Acquisition, with oversight of an annual budget beyond $100 billion. That's right, billion. And with responsibility for equipping and supporting the finest sailors and Marines in the world with the best platform systems and technologies around the globe. Go Navy. Mr. Geurts previously served as the acquisition executive for US SOCOM at MacDill, where he was responsible for all special operation forces acquisition technology and logistics. His contributions were recognized by both private and public institutions, to include earning the Navy Distinguished Public Service Medal, Presidential Rank Award, US SOCOM Medal, William Perry Award, Federal Times Vanguard Award for Executive of the Year. I mean, quite a list. And prior to his senior executive service, I actually first met Lieutenant Colonel Hondo at the time while he was at the JSF program office at the JPO, while I was a program manager at Pratt & Whitney on the Joint Strike Fighter engine when X-32s and X-35s were soaring in the skies above Edwards and Pax River. And 10 years later, my teams were developing some prototypes for an interim defensive weapon system on the V-22 while he was at SOCOM. And here at Elbit America, our team's working with Hondo on the Griffin Seekers and some pretty innovative approaches to to air-launched effects, if you will. Over the time, I think there's some takeaways from Hondo that we embrace here, that I embrace personally, and that is drive innovation, be forward-thinking, move fast, fail fast, and then learn and adapt. Be agile, and when you draw your organization wiring diagram, draw it upside down. Leaders like us are here to serve and enable success for our teams. So with all that, please enjoy this upcoming session. Listen, learn, and be inspired. Over to you, Tambrian.
Hello, Sean and Tambrian. Before you go, Sean, I just want you to hang on for a second. I'd love for you to say hi to Secretary Geurts when he comes on. I think it'll be about 10, 15 minutes. So we've got 10 or 15 minutes. If you'd like to come back, I'd love you to do that. But I thought what we might do is we're waiting for the secretary to get out of a rather important meeting with a low-level official that we all happen to know. I thought what you guys might do is talk a little bit. First off, I'd like you to introduce yourself, Tambrian. Maybe talk a little bit about your work at SOFWorks and how you worked with Secretary Geurts, a little bit of that. And if you want to tell any stories out of school, that's perfectly fine. It's just between friends. But I tease, but would love for you to talk a little bit about that, talk about SOFWorks, and talk about what you're doing at GovWorks.
Yeah, so first off, David, I appreciate it. And thanks to you and all the work that you guys are doing at the America Future Series. Just a real honor to be here. I really, I'm hesitant to talk. I've got a Texas twang. Sean probably has the coolest voice in radio. I mean, that's just a flat out sexy voice. I love that. Hey, so no, and it'll be an honor to talk to the secretary. I've known Secretary Geurts, as Sean pointed out. He's known him for a while as well. And not only, do I consider him just a great innovative leader and decision maker, but, he's also a friend. So this will really be a good opportunity for me to spend some time. I'll try not to put him on the spot too much with any back color stories, but no, my background, as Sean alluded to, 25 years in the Army, 20 of it in special operations. And then when I was a little too old and broken to actually do the mission, I turned to the dark side of research and development, and and that's actually where I ran across Secretary Geurts initially, while he was the PEO of fixed wing down at US SOCOM. So we have a very storied past of working together on several projects. He is very supportive of the guys that are on the tip of the spear and just did a phenomenal job in that position. And then, I went out, got out and spent a little bit of time in industry, had a great opportunity to work with some different companies. And then actually, a few years after I retired, Mr. Geurts called me up and said that he had been thinking about some things. Be careful when somebody like Mr. Geurts calls and says, I've been thinking about something. I probably should have hung up the phone immediately, but I didn't. And it actually was a great opportunity. I think he had a real vision for, wanting to try something different in the non-traditional spaces around innovation. And so, he offered me the opportunity to, to come in at SOFWorks, which is a partnership intermediary for Special Operations Command, to really try and do some things that were different, right? You kind of see all the commercial innovation, the onslaught, back in the 50s and 60s and even into the 70s, the government really owned the lion's share of the intellectual property, if you will, that was going out and, really changing the way that we did things technologically. But then as things matured and progressed, you'd see businesses, now in the commercial side or private side, if you will, there's literally billions, hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars that are being poured into, that sector. And then how can the government take advantage of that and harness it? So I spent 5 years as the plank holding director of SOFWorks, had a lot of really good opportunities, saw a lot of really interesting technology, was able to support Special Operations Command. And then subsequent to that, when I was kind of growing long in the tooth there, what I saw that was really kind of fundamentally changing my philosophy was that as a patriot, I really wanted to help the entirety of government, not just Special Operations Command. And so I think that really led me to what I, now called GovWorks. And the idea was how can you do SoftWorks at scale to really help the entirety of government? And I think there is a legitimate way to do it. We've certainly put that concept out on the GovWorks website, and really waiting to kind of get after that and help in any way that we can. So really interested to hear from any of your audience members today, but then subsequently also what does Mr. Geurts have to say and what's the latest in his world. So.
Well said, sir. So there's two things we want. We want to hear his current rock and roll list, right? We want to see his playlist because we're always keen to hear that. I look forward to that, every day. I see one of those that he posts. You guys may share the same musical tastes, I'm guessing. Don't know. But you both worked in and around or with him, and I'm wondering if there's any particular program development or initiative that sticks out in your mind with regard to something that you think that he has done in his career that really moved the needle, aside from setting up SoftWorks and some little things like that. But some of those sorts of things that stick out in your mind, if anything that, especially if you, it may have impacted you in your role. And I would defer to both of you.
Sean, do you want to go first if you've got one? If not, I've got one.
Yeah, I'll throw one out. I was the V-22 program manager at Bell Helicopter after my JSF experience at Pratt & Whitney, and great experience. Got the airplane back and flying again, and all the rest. And we got the milestone C decision, and things were really going well. And of course, I have some type of attention deficit challenge, I guess. And I went over to BAE Systems, and we said, hey, it would be pretty cool if we could figure out how to answer a question that General Mike Howe once asked me, which is, when are you going to put a gun on the V-22? I didn't have the answer to the question then, but now I had all the pieces. I had pieces to connect up, if you will, or dots. And so my team met with Hondo and said, this is what we think we can do. And Hondo's challenge to our team was, awesome, we like your idea. It's innovative. Go make it happen and move as quick as possible. And I realize that you're probably going to screw it up, but you're going to learn from it. And oh, by the way, you're a big company, so I want you to think small. And it was a bit funny. And within our business, we adopted this idea that we wanted to be squirrels. We're the oldest defense company in the world, 400 years old at the time, and yet we're going to be like squirrels. And that was actually Hondo's influence. So we created a small business mindset within this, multi-billion-dollar defense company. And that stuck with me for the last 13 years. I've now worked 10 years in small businesses, and now I'm back into a big business, and I love it. And that's Hondo's inspiration. Go fast, you're going to screw up, learn, adapt, and as opposed to analysis paralysis. So I won't share more details than that. I don't want to get myself in trouble. I probably have some NDA that still exists from back in those days. But
that's
that
a
was
great
his
example.
inspiration.
That is a great example, because people talk about fail fast. What I'm struck by, and I would love your guys' comment on this, having someone in his position reach out to industry and say, we want you to do this, as opposed to going through some sort of highly regulated government documented process where 82,000 people have to bid and the low cost producer gets it or whatever. That's a game changer, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say even, kind of akin to what Sean said, there were certainly individual projects that we worked a lot on, but I think what influenced me more than anything wasn't like an individual thing. It was just a philosophy. It was a willingness to fail faster and a willingness to take calculated risk, right? And it was interesting to watch him kind of mull over a few things, but then it wasn't the rock drill, right? And in soft we have the rock drill, it's a go get me a rock, Not that rock, go get me another rock, right? And you just keep going in these circles. But he would hear from all sides and then make a decision and go. He'd take the risk, and that's what I appreciated about it. I did not know how much I appreciated it until I spent some time in industry doing some rock drills. So and then you know it's so you always miss what you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Well said.
But I really appreciated that about him as well, his leadership style.
So I don't know if the secretary has joined us yet or not. I saw a little note. He may have joined us. I'd like to get a cue from our team. I'd like our staff to tell us if he's joined us or not, if he's in sort of the waiting room. If not, I will be very happy to ask you guys a question or two. And Sean, if you've got time, I'd love for you to stay on and say hello to the secretary. But I think we're only maybe 3 or 4 minutes away from him joining us. If my old eyes just don't deceive me, I see a note there on the screen.
No, I think that's a question.
Says
Oh,
not
that's
yet, David.
Not
Keep
yet.
tapping.
That's a question. Okay. I could keep hoping, right? Hope springs eternal. There you go.
He'll be here. I know he will.
He'll be here. Okay. So, things have really changed fundamentally in how industry and the government work together. And Sean, in your experience, having been at small and large companies, et cetera, back to large companies, et cetera, what would you say is the fundamental thing that you think has really improved as changes and that we must do more of in order to stay ahead of our near peers? We're always looking for prescriptions for people who can say, hey, we need to do more of this in order to have a chance against a population of 1.4 billion with a laser focus on beating us. What would you say is the 1 or 2 biggest things that we really need to focus on and double down on?
I think speed, rapid implementation, prototypes, experimentation. Let's learn through spiral development. I think learn by doing is a way for us to go ahead and move rapidly and get capability out to the front lines. And there are some ways to get that capability now. OTAs have become quite popular and the like, but I really think this idea of I'll take an interim solution today versus the exquisite solution a decade from now, because things change so rapidly that if we don't get within the OODA loop of our adversaries, they're going to be on our tail and we're going to be the ones being shot down. So speed with focus. That's where I think our biggest challenge and opportunity sits in a near peer threat environment.
Okay. And would you echo that sentiment and maybe talk a little bit about knocking out the barriers to speed? How do we crush cycle time? How do we increase cycles of learning? You've had a lot of experience with that.
Yeah, I think so. What I would say, and I don't, in no disagreement at all. I think it really starts. I think where we really need to start is really more open dialogue and collaboration up front from the public and private side. What I've seen is, I tell everybody I'm a huge American exceptionalism guy, and I believe that our technologists can build anything we need, but they don't know what to build. And then conversely, you've got everybody in the government side that doesn't always know what the art of the possible is, right? So I used to tell everybody, get the PhD operator and the PhD technologist in the room together. And it never ceases to amaze me what you can come up with. And I think that more transparent dialogue up front, a better understanding helps us achieve the speed. And it can't be, 91 page, statements of work and that kind of thing. We've got to get in the same room, roll up the sleeves and kind of mix it up a little bit without running afoul of the acquisition process. But there's ways to do that. And I think we can do that very effectively and quickly. And I think that goes to the point of what Sean was saying about, speed and getting out in front of our near peer adversaries.
Well, fantastic. I appreciate that response on that, those insights. I think we have Secretary Gertz with us now. Love to bring him on and say hello. Hondo, are you with us?
Hey, you guys hear me all right?
Yes, sir. It's good to
Cameron,
see you,
what's with
sir.
the hair?
I'm growing it while I still got it.
That's good.
If I could grow that, I would, sir.
Yeah, there you go.
Didn't you say this was the Ric Flair look? Woo!
Awesome. Good to see
Absolutely.
everybody out there. Sorry for running a little late here. How's everybody doing?
Doing great, sir. I'd like to introduce you to Sean Bond with Elbit.
Hey, Sean.
You may actually know him. I think he's worked with or underneath you in the past. Wanted to say hello real quickly, sir. Sean, if you would.
Hello there, Hondo. I just want to share that I met you back at the turn of the century on the X32 versus X35 program when I was working for Bob Cia and General Howe. And so
There we go.
it's good to see you. You haven't aged a day.
Yeah, right.
So good to see you again, sir.
Yeah, it's what they say in the Pentagon. Every day feels like a year. Every year feels like a day. It's kind of the way it is here.
I can feel
Hard to
that.
believe
Yes,
that was
sir.
20 years ago.
It is hard to believe. It is.
Well, thank you, Sean. Travel safe. We appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
We're going to turn it over to you two. You guys have a great conversation. We'll be back at the end of it.
All right, awesome.
Hey, sir, how are you doing today?
Good to see you, Cameron.
Good to be seen. Good to be seen. Hey, I just, this is really about, the America Future Series really wants to talk about and hone in on innovation. As I was telling some of the other audience members before you joined, I mean, to me, you are the epitome of an innovative leader, right? Not afraid to take some risks. And so I always appreciated that about you. And so I thought this was who better to talk to about innovation and what's going on, than you. And, not only were you a great leader and mentor, but, I also consider you a friend. So it's a real honor for me to be able to kind of dialogue with you a bit about innovation today.
Do we still have our mutual assured destruction clause?
Yes.
That we know enough about each other that will, if one goes here, the other one's free.
That's right. That's right. It's I'm going to be weapons tight, not weapons free. And actually that probably shouldn't give you any pause. I think you got more dirt on me than I on you. So that's fine.
It's good to be here with everybody on what's a really it's always been an important topic, but probably not more important than us looking forward here.
Yeah. Well, one of the things before we start off, I will bring up one personal thing, and I think that's a lot of the audience members. I like the personal side of people, and I know that you run really deep. But one of the things, it's going to lead into another question I had, but would you mind telling the audience members a little bit about your musical background? Do you play an instrument, and how did you get started?
Yeah, it's playing maybe a relative term. A lot of folks, I think we can talk about, whether it's innovation or agility and its relationship to tangential skills or mindset or creativity or diversity or openness or lots of different things go along that. Yeah, I was a bonehead. I could read music before I could read. I started hammering at a piano when I was about 2, and not that I was any great concert pianist. Oddly enough, it probably fits with my character. Was much better at improvising and reading, making stuff up than reading out of a music book. But yeah, started piano for a long time. Figured out that was not an easy thing to carry around in college. So then, moved to the guitar and then, gone from there. But if thank goodness the social media wasn't around, or you could probably have seen me as a lieutenant in our office band, and dogs were howling, but I'm not sure anybody was doing it. But I do find whatever those diversions are, whether it's music or doing a long Ironman run or just sitting up at a cabin off the zone, it's really hard to be, I think, to free your mind up to think about possibilities when you're in task mode. And I have found that I tend to surge on the task, and then I need to completely unplug. And that's when kind of new ideas float in. And then, so it's kind of like doing tempo training on the track. But for me, I do not get more innovative the harder or longer I think about a problem. I've almost got to break away. And I think there's something to that, the power of daydreaming or the power of something else, finding those And I think, when you and I worked Softworks and stuff, sometimes the most creative ideas on a problem when had nothing to do with us actually talking about the problem.
Right.
And that was one of the most powerful ways. I think everybody wants to get in a room and talk a problem, and then sometimes that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all. I think it was, I found catharsis in a lot of different, a little different avenues. And I always have to carry a book. That's the one thing I always endeavor to do is carry my little book, because eventually I may have an epiphany and I need to get it on paper before I end up shiny squirreling something else. So,
I think the one thing you got to do when you do that, though, is, the office used to hate when I would do an Ironman, because, if they had the 18-inch neck category, I'd be a champion. But it usually meant I was out there for a long time, and I couldn't have music and couldn't talk to anybody. So you're there thinking for a long time. And I would come up with like 10,000 of the world's best ideas.
yeah.
And then the next day, I would remember 100 of them and bring them in the office and completely overspeed the office. But you have to have the humility that, if you're good, 1 out of 100 of your ideas might have the seeds with which, when put with somebody else's idea, can actually make a difference. So, there is this idea of you've got to be able to generate a lot of ideas, but then you've got to have the humility to be able to step back and look at them critically, and quite frankly, glue them on with somebody else's idea to really get there. They're kind of like crappy rocks on a beach. They really don't get to be shiny until they're put in the friction of a lot of people talking about it and bureaucracy and everything else. But if you put it in a rock tumbler with some sand and grit, you can come out with a pretty good product. But you've got to have thick enough skin, because some of that will feel very personal if you identify personally too much with an idea.
Yeah. No, there's no disagreement there. I've certainly got some scar tissue from taking things personal, and it's kind of maddening sometimes. For me, I'll take it, and if I don't think about it, a step away from the problem long enough, I do end up taking it personally.
Yeah, I've had to learn over time to divorce the idea from my identity.
Yeah.
Right. And when somebody talks about your idea, it's natural that you take it personally and you want to call it your idea, not the
Right.
idea. But if you can do that and you get enough folks doing that, I often then you start getting, most great innovations are a combination of 2 or 3 or 4 things that nobody thought at the time would go together, right?
Yeah.
It can be, hey, we're in a pandemic, folks want some good message. So you put a LinkedIn message where you got music and a little leadership or resiliency note together. It could be, you and I on a runway in some faraway country, putting a sensor or something on a system that nobody had thought about doing that before.
Yeah.
Each existed in their own right, but didn't get there. So that idea of creating relationships and shortening down the distance so you can put things together that wouldn't normally go together, I think is really powerful. Easy to say, sometimes hard to do.
Yeah, and I think I kind of look at it from a people problem. To me, it's always about people, right? People are always the problem or the solution. And sometimes, if depending on my situation, sometimes I can be both. But I always kind of felt like that was one of the things that we as a, and I don't just pin it on the government, right? Just it's both public and private side. I think it's just people. We kind of we mix up terms when we talk about innovation. We talk about entrepreneurs and inventors, and and it's always interesting to me. Like if I say somebody's not an entrepreneur, they can get it, and they say, "Yeah, I don't invest in businesses, so I'm not." Or I can say, "Hey, you're an inventor or not," and you can quickly filter that and say, "Yeah, okay, I haven't invented anything." But when you tell people they're not innovative, the carte blanche, 100% of society will be like, they take umbrage, they get frustrated. They're like, but the reality is, I think there are some people that are more cut from an innovative cloth and they see things a little different. And so we're talking about innovation. I think we struggle with just even what does the term mean? And it means different things to different people. So I was wondering, just from your vernacular,
what does innovation mean to you?
Yeah, I much prefer the term agility than innovation.
Yeah.
Because I can think about agility, I can think about pivot speed, I can think about adaptability and resilience. I can get a sense of that. I can, whether it's at an individual, at a team, at a piece of equipment, at a organizational concept. So I tend to think of agility now, right? Or pivot speed.
Right.
And then, if you're going to have good pivot speed, you got to have a solid foundation. That's trust, that's relationships, that's mindset, that's inclusiveness, that's mission focus and all that. So one element is creating a good foundation so that you have the pivot speed or can generate the throw weight the fastest possible. The other thing I think about in whether it's innovation or agility space, I actually think of it in 3 different dimensions. And I think many times we try and make it one thing, and that's where we fall into this problem. And so the first dimension to me is a little bit of, it's known to me, it's a mission I've got, it's a product I build, it's a process I use, but I've got to get better and better every day to stay competitive. And that tends to be, you might be innovative in a very process centric, Lean Six Sigma or value chain engineering or something like that. And so your agility isn't that you're going to 10x the problem every week. It might be that you're going to take 1% out every month, and in a year you'll get 10% better. Some folks call that, iterative innovation. I mean, there's lots of different worlds, but it's known to me, and I just got to get better and better every day at it.
Right.
The second dimension to me is it's known to somebody else, but it's not known to me. Right. So somebody in a tangential industry is doing it, or, I want to invent an artificial Christmas tree and I've got a toilet bowl brush company.
Right.
And that's how we invented the artificial Christmas tree, was the toilet bowl brush company, because somebody figured out you could cut it in half and stack up a bunch of toilet bowl brushes and you got a Christmas tree.
Right.
It could be putting ISR onto a platform or an unmanned thing like we hadn't thought about. It could be, creating a taxi company with no cars, right? Creating a platform. So it's known to somebody, it's just not known to me. So that to me is where relationships matter, experimentation matters, but it's got a little bit of a focus. It's not just kind of out there. And then the third, I think, is, it's new. So the second one's new to me, but not new to the world. The last one is new to the world. And I think sometimes we conflate all 3 of those. And then we go to hey, I want you to invent something new to the world, but you got to show me a tangible outcome next week that'll impact the mission. And so what tends to happen is everybody starts to show value or to show meaningful. They all tend to try and solve a tomorrow night problem. And then the other thing that tends to happen if you don't have the right culture is they each try and compete with each other. And no, I'm the really cool innovation. No, I'm doubly cool. No, I'm triply cool. Don't talk to them. They're just the unenlightened innovators, as opposed to we're all trying to do a bunch of things. How do we make that work? Now, I think when it works right, you create this kind of multi-dexterous organization that can do all 3 of those well. And not only can they do them well, they actually respect the need to do all 3, and they can allocate talent, resources, and processes to the 3 the right way. So I think when, and I would say my last thing is we confuse leading an innovative organization with being an innovator. Because you can create an organization like I just spoke about, and be very thoughtful on organizational design and how to hire talent and all that, and not be the person who invents the next widget.
Right.
And too many times we confuse a person who's good in one of those 3 categories for having to lead it. And hey, if you're not the innovator person, wearing the moon boots every day, then you can't lead that organization. I mean, you can pick, Bell Labs, you can pick lots of examples of very innovative organizations where the iconic innovator wasn't the leader of that organization.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you at all. And I think that, and that's an important aspect, because again, to me, it's always, I kind of view things not as, widgets, and some people do, and that's okay. I kind of tend to always look at it from the people perspective, because simply that's the most fascinating to be. And I would say even right before you got on the call, we were talking about some of the legacies and hallmarks because you've been an innovator, right? You've taken risk where others probably didn't think it was prudent. And you've done some things, and so that other people would not have done, right? Simply because they measure risk a little differently. So I guess I would ask, we talked about, soft work. We talked to the audience a little bit about that before you came on, but how do you really assess risks in the innovation space, or why take the certain risks? And I'll preface it by saying that my career and my history and where I was at. And to me, doing the innovation, it wasn't about the risk. The risk of not doing it was so high that the rest of it didn't matter. And so that was easy to be an innovator in that space because you had no choice. It needed to get done. People's lives were on the line, and mission success was on the line. So, but in instances that's not where you've made decisions, that's not always the case. And so, why take the risk? What's your philosophy on that?
I think you're right to we talk about risk, we don't talk well about opportunity. So I would say generally any bureaucracy overemphasizes and overvalues what they think their ability is to measure risk. And they're all about trying to measure downside risk. And they have no ability to leverage upside value or upside opportunity. And so just like you think about risk of, probability of occurrence, consequence of occurrence, you can think of opportunities. In fact, that's one of the things I drive our teams to do is don't just show me the risk matrix, show me the opportunity matrix. Right. And there may be that, a 10% shot, like, dropping small diameter bombs off a wing of a C-130. We had thought that would have about a 10% chance of winning. But if we could do it, that would open up a whole new line of operation for us in that particular problem set. And then the trick then is iteration speed. And then if I can do it in a shorter amount of time, and at SoftWorks, we talked about this 3-dimensional risk opportunity curve, and that just, I think, got a little bit painful for all of us to think through. So there's that element. Are you thinking as aggressively about opportunities you're thinking about risk? And not convincing yourself because you divide 2 whole numbers on a risk matrix and get 4 digits that you actually understand it to 4 digits level of precision, which tends to be where our bureaucracy goes, because bureaucracies by design are there to reduce risk to the senior leader, not illuminate opportunity. They're there to constrain decision space. And so one trick to do as a leader is talk about strategy and intent on the front end, so you can illuminate the decision space you're willing to consider, as opposed to make people guess about it, and they're always going to guess conservatively. The second piece is there's a little of a myth that innovators risk it all, right? They bet the farm on a single thing, and that has almost never, in fact, I can't think of a single time that's actually occurred. What really innovative teams, organizations, leaders do is really, really create a very sound foundation that allows you to operate better, faster. It opens up opportunity space, and then they take a really bold step. Where many organizations fail is they don't spend enough creating a solid foundation, and then they take a micro innovation step. And if you look back to, I would say, successful things like, if you take the SoftWorks example, we figured out how to get really good on the core business, which then freed up discretionary bandwidth. And then we took a big leap to solve something that we hadn't solved. And then we solved it, we didn't bet the whole farm. And you'll remember, right. Any additional thing you want, you have to earn.
Right.
You don't just get 4 buildings until you can prove you can use 1.
Right. Everything has to pay for itself.
Right. And so I think this notion of creating so if I go back to that 3-dimensional discussion, creating operational excellence in the first dimension, so you've got trust, so you've got credibility. So, I had to generate, in the SOCOM example, I had to generate credibility that I could deliver on tonight's mission to give me the discretionary ability to say, I'm going to take this big leap to help us worry about a mission 10 years from now.
Right.
If you don't have credibility in being able to do your day-to-day mission, it's very hard then to get the time, bandwidth, leadership buy-in, and quite frankly, workforce buy-in to take that big leap. So the two things are, I would say, as an innovative leader, figure out how to generate your current day business as innovatively and as well as you can with credibility. I always say credibility enables freedom of action.
Yeah.
So as you generate a lot of credibility, then take a big step. Don't just take a micro step, right? And if there's up and coming folks here, over time, I would say there's kind of the three traits I look for, and you exemplify those. Other folks who have been in the space of curiosity is a really important thing. You have the curiosity to explore just outside your area.
Right.
Then do you have the humility to learn? So you explore something, you see it, can you learn from it as opposed to dismiss it? And then you have the boldness to act. And when
Right.
you can create at the individual and at the team and at the organizational level, that kind of mindset, then people love joining winning teams. People love joining exciting teams.
Yeah.
If you create a vibrant, optimistic, mission-focused organization, guess what? The best organizations get the pick from the best candidates.
Yeah.
And so I guess that mindset, I'm not sure where. I'm sure somebody's invented it in academic land. I'm just a grinder in terms of execution. But over the years, I think that mindset has been useful. And then if you're a strategic leader, I would say, it's really about visioning the possible futures. And I want you to say future, but futures. I tend to live about 5 years ahead of the organization, so that I can, if I can change 20% at a time in 5 years, we've changed without having to break the organization.
Right.
But you can't pick like one. It's a little bit like being at the optometrist. I've got an idea. Does it work in 1 and 2? Does it work in 3
Right.
and 4? And kind of clicking through. And then secondly, can you create a scalable platform like a Softworks or something else where it's very scalable and it attracts lots of different people using it in different ways. And then finally, just relentlessly and boldly experiment.
Yeah.
You've got to be the boldest at experimenting when things are going the best, because that's when back to that solid foundation, when things are going the best is the best time to make a change. And it's somewhat counterintuitive. And so I don't know if it's my positively discontent nature or whatever, but that, constantly challenging yourself has been, again, I would love to take credit for all this. I've poached, learned, stolen from, NCOs, senior NCOs like you, and, inventors all over the place, and, French guys doing flying boards and everybody else. I'm not that smart, but I'm a hell of a poacher. And that works out pretty well.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head in a couple of interesting ways. And, to me, there was always, the old adage, with great risk comes great reward, and that's why we created that 3D matrix, because I think we look at risk. I don't think we do a bad job of it. I would say in the government, is that really that 2D matrix, but there's intuitively in the back of our minds, there's always the, should I do it? And how much is it going to be worth it? And not necessarily from a monetary perspective, but how much time is it going to take me to get there? Because we spend a lot of time doing incremental things, whereas you pointed out, maybe there's some bigger swings we should take on occasion, and that kind of makes me think about, one of the things that I gleaned from you early. You used to have the big posters at fixed wing, even in the number one thing, if I remember, it was the number one was fail faster. And so what I would say is I learned a lot from that. My failure stems a little differently than most. I would say my biggest failure is that not realizing that everything for me is a 5-year problem. You pointed it out earlier, and that's the maddening piece of being, kind of with an innovative mindset. Is it it's like woodworking, right? It takes a lot of patience because it's a 5-year out game. Or, as we've talked before, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. But what would you say, kind of looking back, what's a failure on your part where, because you don't learn from your successes, right? Some people do. I've learned a few things along the way, but it's really the biggest beatings that I ever took that I really learned the most from. What in your history has been, an example of a failure? What did you really learn from it?
Yeah, so what's the old adage? Success has many parents, failure is always an orphan.
Yeah.
Right? So the problem with success is you normally attribute something to success that actually had nothing to do with why it succeeded, but it's kind of that confirmation bias. It was, and so yes, you actually. So I don't like to fail fast. I like to learn fast. So you can learn fast by failure, by trying a lot of things. You can learn fast by having great relationships. You can learn fast by being curious, kind of like we talked about. I would say my failures have been knowing I needed to do something and not acting boldly enough. Waiting too long to get confirmation data that I knew fairly well what the right answer was. And then I got convinced, no, it'll really work. We just need another month or another 2 months or another 3 months. And I took the easy road out by saying, okay, I'll give you another month or another 2 months or another 3 months. When I really knew we were already there, but it was going to be hard to do politically, or it was going to be hard to do, because it meant we would have to move a person, right. and waiting too long to make those kinds of moves when I knew they really had to be made. And then I would say early on, I got confused that changing and reorging would actually, I had an old boss that would say you could do one of two things, reorganize or get something done. And, there's a little bit of I learned early on, luckily, that, reorganizing usually doesn't solve any problems. It usually just creates more distractions. And so, you'll rarely see me do reorganization as something in the toolkit, certainly not as a first move, because sometimes you need to do it. You absolutely need to do it. But many times it just becomes a distractor and it gets a life of its own. And there's elements of that. I would say I got 10,000 other things I screwed up, but we don't have enough time to go through all of those.
Yeah, no, I get it. Well, the one thing I did want to, since we're talking about innovation and we're talking about both public and private spaces, you and I, the whole reason for a SoftWorks and a lot of the other things that you did that were extremely important were really about how does the government writ large start to capture, commercial technologies and capabilities at a faster pace. And so, certainly at SOCOM, we had, SoftWorks, which you're obviously the spirit behind that. What have you seen in your current positions, or just from that position in general, about how the government is continuing to do that, and where are some of those successes?
Yeah, I think again, you've got to be a little careful of what worked in one environment. You can't just copycat and move it in another. So if you've looked at how I've approached things in the Department of Navy, a little different than SOCOM, different, a different sets of challenges, problems, some unique things, some different. And I think there are a lot of similarities, but there are some differences in public service entrepreneurship. Even if I can show it to you analytically with great proof, a taxpayer is concerned anytime you spend money on something that didn't work, because we're spending the capital of the nation, and that should be something they're concerned about, and we need to be accountable with. So some things you've got to understand that are just systematic differences, and then there are other elements that we can absolutely learn from and have to adapt. And I think what tends to work well is when you can align the strength, let's say in public service entrepreneurship, with non-dilutive capital or other sorts of things like that, with the strengths of private capital and private entrepreneurships, and then create the relationships where you can use the strength of one to cover the weakness of the other. And as we have these large systemic changes in the way we fund R&D and then S&T, you've got to kind of shift your processes to get there. The thing I would caution us all, my biggest concern overall for the department is we get a little bit oversubscribed in discovery, and we have underachieved in deployment. And ultimately, I measure success in my current job through the eyes of the sailors and Marines that we're supporting. And so I think the trick is not only to understand how to discover new things through whatever mechanism, but then have the architectural, the technical, the intellectual pipeline, so that there's a pipeline to get those actually to the end customer. Because ultimately, if we can't get things to the end customer, we're not succeeding. That doesn't mean 100% of the things have to get to the end customer. But if 0% are getting to the end customer, then we're not really where we need to be.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Well, hey, sir, I wanted to bookend the discussion. I know we're gonna start to bump up against time. I wanted to bookend the discussion and double back on the music thing. In fact, David Hamilton's already hit me up. I wanted to know what today's rock and roll list was. I thought it was fabulous that you embraced the social media aspect of it, and what a clever idea of rolling up, music with, your inspirational notes for the day. And I would hesitate to say that less than 100% of everybody attending today has clicked on your LinkedIn at some point and gotten some inspiration. So I wanted to so I had two questions. What was today's song? And then number two, what really made you think of it?
So today was Blue Sky by the Allman Brothers Band. That was with a double dose of Jessica, if that was so. Blue Sky was written by Betts about his wife, and Jessica was about their daughter. So you can go click on that. I guess I would say I've learned over time as a leader that communicating clearly and simply on terms that people can take on their own without, kind of being confrontational is really, really important. And that particularly in times of crisis, simple things that you can count on amongst all the other chaos that, again, you can take advantage of and in the moment is really important. I find music, kind of wrapping around your first thing, is one of those things that means different things to different people at different times. The same song will mean something different, how you listen to it. But, unless it's a particularly, it's hard to find a song that is confrontational or doesn't allow you to have your own space and think about it. And so there was that idea. And then I just want to do, some for my own good, some for the greater good, tell everybody to hang in there. It's been a tough now year plus. And kind of my message that, we're all strong folks, we're all strong together, but we're stronger together. And then every once in a while, it's okay to rely on somebody else if you need a little help or if you need a shoulder. I mean, I used it. It was therapeutic for me. It's two things I love to talk about. It's kind of like, a toilet bowl brush and a Christmas tree. I don't think folks would have thought about putting the two of them together, but they both existed. They're abundant and it added some value without a lot of cost, I think. And it's been great. And it gets me thinking about leadership. It energizes my thinking about, okay, what are we doing? Where are the opportunities that we aren't going? Where are there new things to go for? That's kind of where it all came from. But like most of my ideas, I only had thought about, I did it once. And then if that worked, I said, I'll do it 2 days. And then when that worked, I figured I'd do it a week. And now we're, I think, on, month 14. So it was not with the end in mind. It was just, hey, let's try this for a day. And if it's okay, we'll double down on it. If not, no worries.
That's right. Everything must pay for itself. Hey, so I know, David, I know today is a special day because we, the America Future Series, David and team, wanted to present you with the Harry Raduege Award. And I think I'm in auspicious company because not only is David and the panelists are there, but also retired Radagi is joining us as well. So
we got the legend online. Awesome.
that's right. That's right. So I think David, did you have did you have the award in your office, sir?
There you go.
It actually made it without on time and without any issue. So it was awesome, and it's certainly an honor, and I'm humbled that you guys even thought about me, given the namesake here.
Well, glad to see that the supply chain worked.
Well, we didn't go through the Pentagon mail system. We knew better than to do that.
Secondly, I wanted to say, some of us followed your career up close and some of us from afar, and your reputation as an innovator and someone who's contributed mightily to technological innovation and national security shone through. And it just seemed that you were the right person to be the first recipient of the Harry D Raduege Award for technological contributions in national security. And so we brought on some of our leaders here with Harry, its namesake. The chairwoman of our board of advisors, Meredith Walker, is with us. The other leaders that are a part of our advisory board, we had a number of them that could join us, Mitch and Bo and Andre. Glad you're here. We all want to send a heartfelt thank you for your service, and we want to congratulate you on being the recipient of the first Harry D Raduege Award.
Yeah, I'm humbled, as we talked about. It's a challenge as a leader is you get far too much credit as an individual, and so while I'm humbled, you gave it to me individually. It's really kind of for all those folks in the trenches, everybody out there doing great stuff, trying to make the country better, safer. I appreciate what all of you do to bring us together and talk and share ideas and create relationships. All that matters a lot. The country's got a lot of big challenges ahead of it, not insurmountable, but ones that are really going to take us to working together. And so, again, I'm terribly humbled to have a name on it. It should be for everybody I've learned from and got to work with over the years.
We appreciate that sentiment. So on behalf of all of us, Scott, Murray Media, we'd love for you to take us out and wish everybody a good evening.
Well, we just want to say thank you for what's taken place the last couple of days. All of our interviewers and moderators, and certainly all of the panelists above and beyond, really. And again, as I have said throughout the last 2 days, as someone that was no more than just a news anchor for 30 years, when I sit and listen to what you all have to say and the commitment that you all share, the courage to move forward and do it right, and just make it happen. Get it right by doing it right. I've been most impressed. So I simply say on behalf of the America's Future Series, thank you, thank you, thank you to you all. Continued success and continue to help make our country the most incredible country on the planet. Thank you all, every one of you.
Thank you so much.
And to all of our listeners and all of our viewers, we say thank you, and we'll see you a little later on at the end of the summer as we move forward. Thanks again, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations.